Our soul feeds off the good, true, and beautiful things, and Mother Culture allows us to look inwards. And in our contemplation, we soak in the beauty and also dismantle things that no longer serve us well. Hi everyone, my name is Nives. I'm a mom to 2 girls and I've recently started homeschooling them, so I've left my job and my career to stay home with them, and it's been such a wonderful experience. So on my channel I talk about homeschooling, motherhood, parenting, lifestyle, the faith journey from atheism to coming to God, and I would love if you stuck around and hit that subscribe button because that just encourages me to keep making these videos. Okay, so you must be growing tired of seeing in the same exact outfit you saw me in the 2 previous videos, but I am still talking about how classics have helped shape our family and all the benefits that we have reaped from reading classics and the read aloud time in my family. So this is the 3rd and the last video for now in my series, and in this one I want to talk about how it helped me as a mother, and that's a very important one. Okay, so I've recently made a video about all the wonderful benefits and the wonderful ways that adding the practice of reading aloud together, especially of classics, has helped shape our family culture and has contributed to our family atmosphere. What started as a practice for my children and our family has turned into one of the biggest blessings in my life. I'm just quickly interrupting this video to say that ever since I filmed it, I've had a number of thoughts and ideas that I wanted to incorporate as part of it and add to it, and so there will be a voiceover component throughout the video. And now back to the regular programming. The beauty of reading classics is that they're for everyone. I think that for too long I was too intimidated to open one of them. Too often, classics reminded me of being given an assignment of Les Miserables or Brave New World in high school and me reading it out of obligation as I would be quizzed on it later. I never picked up a classic with the right intention during that time. I would read through wondering what my teacher would ask me about or what it is he or she wants us to pay attention to. I read these books in the most utilitarian of ways. My goal was to get a good grade at the quiz. Or should the teacher ask me a question, I wanted to know what to answer. There was a narration. As in a school of 25 plus students, there was no time for such thoughtful, necessary practice. And with such a mindset, nothing of it would stay with me. I wasn't touched by any of the storylines or character traits. I just wanted to get through it so that I could get a good enough grade to fool my teacher that I understood anything. No lesson, no moral, no feeling remained from reading those stories in that environment. And now as a homeschooling mom, I'm conscious of that. I want to let classics be what they are. I want my children to take what their souls got out of them as opposed to what I, a grown-up, want them to understand from the narrative. And there's no need for quizzes or right or wrong answers when you raise young readers who learn to let their imagination run wild as you read aloud to them. As a homeschooling mother, you want to feed your children that beautiful feast of ideas that will spiritually fulfill them, challenge their minds, get them thinking, exploring, toying with ideas. But how can you truly do that if you yourself do not actively pursue those classical ideas? This is why making time for Mother Culture is so necessary for our soul. Mother Culture refers to the art of growing as a mother through enriching, soul-filling, mind-nourishing ideas found in books or through handcrafts, art, music, poetry, etc. One of the main things I noticed when we started our homeschooling journey and me getting involved in the world of Charlotte Mason and classical education is that my learning has only just begun. Yet for years prior, I went through life content and numb to the need of my heart, soul, and mind to learn and grow. Our soul feeds off the good, true, and beautiful things, and Mother Culture allows us to look inwards. And in our contemplation, we soak in the beauty and also dismantle things that no longer serve us well. Through it, we not only strive towards being the best mother, teacher, or self we can be, but towards having a rich, well-nourished soul. Reading truly good books brings to the forefront of your life the concepts of truth, goodness, and beauty, which I find to be indispensable in living a good, worthwhile life. And very often these concepts are lacking in our world unless we go out to seek them. And where better to find them than in the world of classic literature? The best way I can describe it for me is diving into the world of classical education transports you from that ugliness and the muddled waters of the world where nothing is good, nothing is bad, nothing is truly just. In a world where everything is basically gray, to a world where everything is clear. You suddenly feel awake to the world again, and you see goodness for what it is. You see evil for what it is. And you in turn seek to embody certain virtues that maybe have been long forgotten, because those are the virtues of the prominent characters in those books. Now, although I grew up reading fairy tales and that I was familiar with the books I'm reading to my children, or that I'm reading them now on my own free time, it wasn't a practice that followed me throughout my whole childhood. I remember naturally gravitating towards beautiful stories and ideas. And there's a really beautiful Russian tale, a folk tale called Masha and the Bear. And now it's a Netflix series, which is very different from the folk tale itself. But I remember asking my mom to keep telling me the story of Masha and the Bear because I loved that little girl who was so brave, and I wanted to be like her. I wanted to be like the little girl who in the woods found herself facing a bear and confronting him and not being afraid of him. That was a character that I wanted to live up to as a little girl. But then the war in my home country hit, and it became more about survival than it became about all the niceties of literature or classical education. And so much of that intentional time I had with my parents in those very early years faded away with the war and with the battles of immigrant life. And with that, the daydreaming of bravery and the adventure chasing and goodness seeking part of me also faded little by little too. Here I am now, a mother to 2 daughters, and it's almost a chance for me to have a do-over at the childhood that I myself didn't have, and now I get to offer it to them. And I work really hard at being intentional for my children in preserving their childhood in a way where they know right from wrong, where they won't spend a lifetime trying to figure out where truth lays and what their purpose in this world is. They won't need to work so hard to discern what is good, what is bad. I want them to have it laid out in front of them, and these are the stories that I share with them because I do think that these stories help them figure that out. So we know that reading classics fills your soul with truth, goodness, and beauty. And as someone who loved to read, but not classics particularly, I was more into philosophical books. Like I loved Fernando Pessoa, for example. I loved all of the existentialist writers like Camus. I did love reading, but I didn't read classic books. And now that I've integrated classics, I've seen a profound change within myself. I don't think I'm smarter or more knowledgeable than I was, but I do think differently about the world, and I do view things differently. I view everything with more awe. Now that I am reading classics, I take the time to notice the world around me more, to see the truth, the goodness, the beauty in things. It feels like it follows me everywhere, and it feels like it's now an aspiration of my soul to live up to those virtues. Because when those concepts are so clearly presented in a book and in a story, it's really hard to not go out and seek them out for yourself. Suddenly the world becomes very different from what it used to be. It's a little less gray. It's a little more mysterious. And things that seemed like coincidences before now seem like gifts from God put ahead of you, like little glimmers. And so you in turn become more thankful as a person, and you become more in love with the world. And I keep looking outside because it's windy, the sky is blue, the cedar trees are moving, the branches of the cedar trees are swaying from side to side, and it's just a beautiful sight. And I just find it inspiring as I'm saying this, that this is happening right before my eyes. And then becoming more thankful, you become more joyful. And in becoming more joyful, your altruism comes out, and all the previous self-indulgence is drowned by the will to be more giving to others and more thoughtful of others. Now, I can't only attribute this to reading classics. I think my daily practice of reading the Bible has made me more receptive of these virtues and has made me more conscious of bringing them out into the world. I was the person who favored getting lost in a bad show over opening up a good book. And maybe I was scared of those ideas. Maybe I was scared of the change I would see or what those ideas might do to me, because I feel like oftentimes we're stalled by our fears. So I mentioned in my previous video that In order for my children to develop the attention span of sitting through a classic, I needed to cut out the screen time. And what is true for my children is also true for me. So I remember when I was cutting down on the screen time for them, I felt like a huge hypocrite, because at the end of the day, I would put them to bed and then I would plunk myself on the couch, turn on the TV, and watch a bad Netflix series, or watch like 90 Day Fiance, or something so mind numbing, because I felt incapable of doing anything else. I felt like, oh my goodness, I'm so tired. And this is how I relax. I just identified with relaxing on the couch, watching a bad show, and simultaneously scrolling on my phone at the same time. But thankfully, I realized that if I'm gonna look for a change in my children, I needed to change as well. I felt like I could get away with that because they would be in bed and they had no clue what I did at the end of the day. But I was a hypocrite and I needed to change that. And thankfully I did reevaluate my own screen time and how I spend my own time. It wasn't time well spent. I would end my nights feeling depleted, tired. I didn't feel like my soul was filled with anything new. I was just numbing my soul. I feel like also reading classics opened me up to the world of adventure more, like Tolkien's world, for example. It's something that I felt like I had no interest in before. I felt like that was for a different kind of breed of a person, and now that's what I go seeking. And now opening up a good book at the end of the day, and I feel much more rejuvenated. I feel better. I feel like I'm ending my night purposefully, because also I realize how much I've missed out on my own education in my life and the opportunities for my own education, and now I get to have it. And as I mentioned, it's not this education where I feel like I'm doing this to become smarter or more knowledgeable than the next person. I'm doing it because it genuinely feels good to be reading these stories. It feels good to be thinking about these characters and the way that they live their life, the way that they go through hardships and show resilience and are good and kind to one another. Another thing I love about classics is that goodness always prevails, whether it is through a story of redemption where someone can be changed and become a kinder, better version who does bring out good into the world again through the help of other characters, or through goodness itself that triumphs over evil in an epic adventure, for example, like Lord of the Rings. Goodness always prevails, and I feel like that is such a beautiful concept to hold on to, especially in this world as it is right now. In reading these stories, I think they complement the world so beautifully, so well. You cannot read them and be left unchanged. You cannot read them and go out into the world with a morose face and seeing the world as this just bad place. I think you see a lot more subtleties in the goodness that is out there that might not be so obvious in the worldly affairs as we have them right now, but that are there. You become more hopeful. You see things for what they're not to your five senses, but something that they might be to a sense that you can't quite describe. The world of God is just so clearly described in these classics that it's hard to deny that it's there everywhere around us. And those classics tie in so beautifully whenever you step out into the world. This is something you keep top of mind. All right, so that's my story about why classics were such an integral part of my mother education as well, and how it helped fill my soul with so much goodness and so much beauty. And I hope you enjoyed listening to this. A lot of it was a little bit of a ramble. I hope that's okay. And I hope to see you in my next video. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.